Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D3. This is the D3.
Go. Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's arts
and entertainment scene.
This is the D3.
Hello and welcome to the Debrief for Wednesday, February 20th, 2019. This is the podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
I am the new guy to the Detroit scene.
And I'm the native.
Right? I feel like
I school you.
I say it like I've arrived, like people have noticed.
Right. I'm here.
I'm here. And I've got a lot to learn, so I'm learning from you. I appreciate that. I don't know if I tell you that often.
Oh,
I appreciate everything that you've taught me about the city
Well, I
of Detroit.
appreciate you being such an enthusiastic student.
I try. Look, here's what we've got on today's show. Aaron Foley, the chief storyteller for the city of Detroit, which not many cities have a chief storyteller.
Not many. I think we're the only.
Plus, he wrote an awesome book called How to Live in Detroit Without Being a Jackass. I read it when I first got here, and no joke, it seriously influenced how I think about this city.
I think it lowered your jackassery, definitely.
It did, and that's not an easy thing to do. That's a heavy lift. So,
we're also going to be talking about big-name chefs who are getting set to open some new restaurants around town.
Also, if you want to hang out with the Detroit roller derby girls, and they're cool. Like, if you have not
who wouldn't
been
want to
a roller derby match, these ladies are pretty amazing. They are tough. We'll tell you how you can do that.
And on Friday, we're going to have our interview up with Cyrus Teta, one of the two official photographers for the city of Detroit. He's got a great exhibit at the Detroit Public Library called Neighborhood Natives. Basically, some wonderful Detroiters that we can all be proud of taken back to their old neighborhoods.
All right, we're going to introduce you to today's co-host in just a moment.
Welcome to the
Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
Before we do that, we want to let you know about Michigan Podcast Productions. This is something brand new that we have just started because we have had so many guests come on this show and say, you know, we've been thinking about doing a podcast.
Yeah, lots of interest in getting audio content out there to connect with fans and patrons. And, hey, I know podcasting is a great way to do that, but I really don't know how to get started. I know I should. I know I could, but what do I do?
So we are going to take care of all that for you. That's the whole idea behind Michigan Podcast Productions. We will help you if you are a Detroit area arts or entertainment organization. We will help you launch your own podcast. We'll help you conceive of the show, map it out, figure out what the right way to go is. We'll help you, set up a recording equipment and make it all happen.
Host it. We'll market it for you.
Submit it to iTunes, get it into Spotify, all that stuff. We'll take care of it. If that interests you, go check out our website. It is MichiganPodcastProductions.com.
My lessons were sitting out on that lawn in front of Motown.
Detroit History Tours.
Detroit Film Festival.
Shakespeare in Detroit.
Ford Arts Beats and Eats.
The Heidelberg Project in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit Grand Prix.
Valentine Distilling Company in Ferndale.
Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Royal Oak.
The Hamtramck Music Fest.
Motor City Pride, and you're listening to...
And you're listening to The Debrief.
I listen to the Debrief podcast.
The Debrief.
Just religiously.
The Debrief.
It's absolutely amazing.
All right, let's meet our guest co-host for today's episode. He is a guitarist and vocalist for the band Main Street Soul. He is also the winner of 4 Detroit Music Awards. Welcome back to the show, Pete Peltier.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
It's good to have you back.
Definitely.
So you've got this band Main Street Soul, but it's not the only thing you do. You've been in a number of other bands over the years, but you were also, this intrigued me because I've never seen this. I don't know exactly what it's all about. You have been a cast member of the Detroit Dinner Theater troupe.
Oh, yeah.
Tony and Tina's Wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Since how long?
Well, since 1999. I think I started the summer of 1999, if I'm not mistaken. And that was kind of the end of the first year. So I wasn't the actual original bass player in Donnie, Dolce, and Fusion. That's the wedding band. And my name has changed. I think I was Carlo Cannoli for a while. I think that is my name now. Carlo Cannoli is my character name. It's changed. We've had some strange names from me over the years.
So what is this all about? If somebody's never been to the show, like I haven't, I have no idea.
You're going to an Italian wedding, and it's just everything that can, any wacky thing that could possibly happen happens.
Wow!
It's like this immersive theater experience, right? Like you're a wedding guest. And you feel like you're part of this crazy wedding.
Right.
How big is the troupe that puts this on?
How many? I mean, the cast is, that's a good question. How many? I guess there's like 30 people altogether.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of integrated in the scene.
There's the priest who gets increasingly drunk throughout the night, and there's the nun that just crazy, wild and crazy, and there's the pregnant bridesmaid who's drinking vodka throughout the night, and it's hysterical. It's been one of the great. It really has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Really?
And the people, the great friends that I made, who have become really close friends, dear friends with through it. It's been great.
So are a lot of the people have been with it a long time as well?
There's a decent amount of us left from the original troupe, and it's kind of funny because we're all getting older now. So they have to they have to bring in some younger people, and we don't do. I mean, when I was originally in the show, the first few years, we were doing 6 shows a week. We were doing Thursday, Friday, and a matinee and an evening show on Saturday and Sunday. So 6 shows a week. And that was my gig. I didn't have time for anything else.
Sure,
but that was okay. It was cool, But
and where does it happen nowadays?
Now it's mainly at Andiamo in the one on 14 Mile there in Sterling Heights, or is that Warren? Is that Sterling Heights? I can never remember.
Warren, I think.
Warren, yeah. But we've done some other shoys. For a while there, we were doing shows around Valentines Day over in Windsor at the Arts Center over there, but they haven't had us over there for the last couple of years. But
I can see why there were 6 shows back in the day. Like Seth, this is another kind of Detroit thing that you wouldn't realize is that when there were limited entertainment, live entertainment options, like this was the thing. Like everybody at some point went to go and see. Tony and Tina's wedding. Yeah.
See, I've heard of it. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen dinner theater. I mean, it almost sounds Vegas-y to me.
No,
not really.
It's a little more down to earth.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, can I tell a quick story about it?
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite stories, and this is a true story. So the last full season that we did, it was in Harmony Park, right in that little courtyard area down there.
Sure.
And my wife, who does a lot of freelance photography work, she was working the auto show, and she called me after the matinee show that day. It was a Saturday, I think, and she said, "Hey, I'm getting off. We're wrapping up here." I said, and she rode down there with the crew. I said, "Why don't you have them drop you off here, and you can stay for the evening show, and then we'll ride home together." So they did, and Rosalie, the producer, sat her with a family that had an entire 15 top table to themselves. Well, they had their son who had been stationed overseas. I think he was in the military. He had just come back. They told him it was a real wedding.
No way.
Yeah, they said it's fine. You're welcome to join us, even though. And he bought a gift. The whole shot. Well, they took Polly. They took my wife aside. They said, "He thinks it's real, so don't let on." And this guy bought it till the very end.
No.
And I'm like, that is I think about that, and that's how good we were. I mean, we sold it so well.
Wow.
And and he'd be like, "Can you believe what that?" And Polly's like, "Oh, I know, isn't it awful?" So I just love that story. It's just, and then of course, all the local dignitaries and celebrities all came to the show back in that day. So another great story is my dear friend Henry Nelson, who played Donnie Dolce. He was the singer in The Wedding Man. Gordie Howe was there with his wife Colleen and a bunch of other. I think Bill Gadsby was there, and they had a whole table. And of course, it was actually a big distraction because everybody wanted to talk to Gordie, so it was really kind of disrupting the show in a lot of ways. So Henry's like, "I'm going to have fun with this." So he walks over there and he's like, "So what's going on here?" There's all this excitement. He looks at Gordie. He goes, "I know you. What? Don't tell me. Don't tell me." And Gordie's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Ice skates." And Gordie's like, yeah. And he's like, "I know, you're Dick Button." And Colleen was not happy. She was like, and all the other guests at the table were just rolling hysterically. He's like, "Yeah, I used to love to watch you in the Olympics." He's like, "So do you still skate?" He's like, "Well," Gordie's like, "Well, I've had some knee surgery." He's like, "Oh, I bet, doing all those double axles and all."
Wow.
And then it was that kind of stuff would just happen left and right back in the day, and it still does. But it's now we just do a few shows a year. So, but I still love being a part of it. It's
people should look that up.
Yeah.
You should go. It's unique. It's unique.
Well, look, Pete, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
We hang out again. We're gonna have a good time and just enjoy yourself.
Cool.
The D3.
Detroit.
Becky, let's talk about food and drink.
I love to. So there's celebrity chefs, right? Like your Gordon Ramsays, your Michael Simon, you think about all these recognizable names in the world of chefs, right? So in Detroit, we have some of those going way back to before I would even say we had a recognizable food scene. So a couple of those, one is Matt Prentice. Pete, you remember Matt Prentice?
I know the name. Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah. So he was kind of one of our first recognizable sort of chefs that did like a local restaurant group. He had Morel's, he had Shiraz, Deli Unique, Coach Insignia back in the day. And then there was a whole bunch of drama that went on. And for 6 years, he's been unable to do any kind of restaurant business because he had to do a non-compete clause.
Now explain this to me, because Coach Insignia was in the Rensen. I've actually been there because my girlfriend took me there maybe 2 years ago, like right before it disappeared.
Yeah.
So he wasn't involved at that
time.
point.
No.
Okay, but that was originally his.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of one of our earlier celebrity chefs, I would say. So he's back. He's able to do a restaurant, and he's chosen a project. Apparently, he looked at 30, 40 things and picked this one, and it's in your former town of Clawson.
Yeah, the Clawson is happening. Where are they putting it?
So
because there's only like 2 blocks of Clawson.
Right. So you've got Leon and Lulu.
Yes.
Owned by an amazing woman, Mary Liz Curtin.
And that's in the old theater. It was a roller rink, right? Roller rink.
And they also have that place that they call The Show in the old Clawson Theater. They opened a few years ago. So there's a retail establishment. There's a little cafe in the front called Three Cats Cafe. It's like a bistro-style snacks kind of thing. So now it's they're saying it's going to grow up into a real restaurant along with this Matt Prentice collaboration. So
very cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be 100 seats and...
Wait, what?
Yeah, they're moving things around.
They're moving some retail out then.
Yeah, they're reconfiguring. It's a big space.
That cafe holds 3 now.
Right. No, it's going to be reconfigured proper. But the cool thing is all the furniture they're going to use in the restaurant will also be for sale.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be kind of rotating.
Slightly used.
Exactly.
I want the one with the ketchup stain. Is that 30% off?
Right, exactly. She could probably snag some good deals. So it's going to be called 3 Cats and a Cook. now, and it'll have a Michigan-centric small plates menu. So Matt Prentice has been living in Midtown and kind of comparing like what's going on in the city versus suburban restaurants. And so he feels there's a need for a more small plates type of place in the northern suburbs. So yeah.
I will say this, one of the things, we didn't do it this last year, but the 2 years previous, around Halloween, they have basically like a scavenger hunt that you do in Clawson. And so we would get up in our costumes, my girlfriend and I, we would go out and you meet other couples and other people and just get, way drunker than you should.
Yeah. Some kind of crawl.
And it's a crawl. Yeah. You go from place to place to place. And it just became more fun the more places that have opened up.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Noble Fish is now, getting much bigger. That's this great sushi place that's there. There's a great little barbecue shack there called the Wood Pile.
That is good.
Loves Noble.
Yeah.
Oh, right? Like that's the place. Like
it's the place to be.
Everybody's told me that, that's where everybody goes for sushi.
She loves her ginger. She'll eat ginger right out
I
of
love
the
that
too.
By the pile,
Don't sleep on Clawson.
Yeah, so now there'll be another place, and they do have a liquor license too. So there'll be Michigan.
I used to live in the tallest apartment building.
Noble has a liquor.
No, the new 3 Cats and a Cook
Okay.
will have. Yeah,
I used to live in the tallest apartment building in Clawson. 2 stories.
I wouldn't brag too much about that. So speaking of big name chefs, another should be about springtime opening to look forward to. This is going to be different end of the spectrum. So Luciano Del Signore, the head chef of Bacco and Bigalora, and Takashi Yagahashi, who used to be a fixture on the Metro Detroit dining scene, then went to Chicago and Vegas, and he's earned himself a Michelin star for a restaurant he had in Chicago. They're teaming up. They say it's a dream come true for these 2 guys to work together. Now, how often do you see 2 celebrity status chefs,
never,
putting a restaurant together?
Seriously, I
know.
can't think of any time.
So I think it's a pretty big deal.
It's not like 2 musicians getting together to cut a record, right?
Right.
Like, it's not
right. And they have said they're making a commitment that one or the other or both of them will be in the restaurant at all times, which is also kind of rare for a big chef. But so this is going to be in downtown Birmingham on Maple, going into the old Cafe Via space there, and which has a beautiful courtyard patio type of thing. So Mark Kurlianchik wrote an article about it. He said it may just be the biggest local restaurant blockbuster since Takashi opened Tribute in Farmington Hills, which, Seth, you probably didn't know about because it closed before you moved here.
Yeah, no.
But that was just a premier, top-notch, all about food, all about hospitality before Takashi moved to Chicago. So it will be this kind of late career sort of thing for both of them. I think they're maybe one's 55-ish, one's 60, that type of thing. And they're calling it Paranoia, which is in Italian, it means for us. And the big emphasis on hospitality. So this is going to be a high-end, really take care of you type of
Birmingham.
restaurant.
It's going to be expensive.
It's going to be expensive. But it sounds like it's going to be something pretty special. Global contemporary cuisine. I don't know. Could be pretty sweet. So, in spring.
Let me ask you, your dream collaboration, if you could collaborate with any superstar musician.
Wow. Probably Joe Jackson.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Because he's... I'm a huge fan of his music, and it's kind of funny. I've been vocally. I get one of like 3 or 4 different comparisons. Van Morrison. I sing all the Van Morrison with the band, so
yeah,
it makes sense.
Uh-huh.
And I've been told I sound a lot like Joe, so I could sing backup for him pretty well.
That would be amazing.
Andy Partridge of XTC. I don't know if.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I love XTC.
They're probably my favorite band other than the Beatles.
He's got huge stage fright, right? Is that him?
Yeah.
And, he doesn't like to perform in front of an audience.
Yeah, that's kind of.
What about you, Becky? If you could...
a dream collaboration.
A dream collaboration.
I don't know. I just do so many different things. I don't even know.
Well, mine would be Becky Scarcello.
Well, so you're living your dream.
I'm living the dream right here, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I like so many people. I mean, if I were a musician, sure, I'd have lots of answers, or if I was an actor or something like that, but I don't know. Well, back to the food. So, of course, the Michigan Central Depot, purchased by Ford, and all this talk about how the area is going to change and what's going to fill in. So, you've got that Michigan Avenue just hopping in Corktown there. But then if you kind of go a bit south, there's not as much. So there's going to be a new place coming in by the Detroit Optimist Society. Now, this is that big restaurant group that has Sugar House, Bad Luck Bar, Wright and Company, Peterborough, Honest John's. They're opening 2 more places this year, Gratiot Avenue Provisions in Eastern Market, Grandma Bob's in Corktown, which is a pizzeria. So they have their eye on this building, kind of in a little bit of no man's land now, but they're kind of banking on all the new people that will be coming into the depot. So it's going to be opening in 2020. So we got a ways out, but it's in Southwest Detroit, basically, right? So what's missing there? Korean. So why not? So a Korean bar and an omakase sushi restaurant, which means a chef's choice sushi bar with only 16 seats.
Wow.
So that'll be a portion, and then the other level will have this 50-seat Korean
is this
pub.
North Korean cuisine or is this South Korean cuisine?
Maybe a mixture of both. Yeah. Yeah. So it gets me thinking about, what cuisine do you think is still missing, or what would you still like to see? It seems like we're really catching up with other cities to have a variety.
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
What is missing here?
Yeah. I mean, now we have Vietnamese, all kinds of Asian. I mean, Peterborough's good for Chinese, but I still think we could use another good Chinese.
Do we have Australian?
Outback steak.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No, we don't.
We don't have Australian. Mm-mm. That's what we need. New Zealand?
No. Mm-mm.
Antarctica?
What would you have from there?
Penguin. Polar bear. Come on.
All right. Well, so Royal Oak, we talk about Royal Oak too a lot. Things coming and going, and nothing ever really seems to last. And what's going in what spot? So
you've never had penguin?
I have not. Have you? Have you?
No, because there isn't any. We need some.
Well, why don't you put some in Royal Oak?
I'm gonna. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So my point is that a 5th anniversary for a restaurant in Royal Oak is actually something to celebrate, right? So Bistro 82 is having their 5th anniversary, and this is nice because it's a higher end restaurant, steaks, and it's fairly pricey. But on February 27th to celebrate, they're going to have a $5 menu. Everything on the menu. $5.
I can afford that.
I know.
At last, I can afford to go to a restaurant that Becky goes to.
You can get a few things.
Right.
You could get one appetizer, one entree, one dessert, $15.
Wow.
So.
Oh, it's not $5 for everything?
$5 each.
Oh, I might have to save up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you got a little bit of time. It's the 27th.
I'm going to cash out some stock.
Make sure you make reservations, though. I'm sure this will be popular.
Oh, yeah.
But they've made some recent updates to the menu and some decor. I walked by there the other day and I saw through the glass some new photos of murals in there, some new fixtures. It's nice. So who knows what could happen, though, because their first anniversary in 2015, people were in there dining and they got a really surprise treat when the owner announced he was picking up the tab.
Wow.
So he paid for everybody. It was $5,182. And then he donated that same amount to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Oakland, Macomb County. So
that's awesome.
Cool guy, Aaron Bellin.
Cool. Coming up in just a few, there's a peep show that's going to be in Hamtramck, and we'll tell you all about it.
This is the Deep Brief.
All right, Becky, Pete, from time to time we have somebody call in who is an expert in some certain aspect of Detroit culture. One of our favorites is Aaron Foley. He is the chief storyteller for the city of Detroit. I do believe we may be the only major city that has a storyteller.
I think so.
I still think we're fact-checking that, but we haven't found one yet.
No.
He also runs theneighborhoods.org, which is a website that talks about all the things that are going on in Detroit besides just what's happening in Midtown and downtown. And he's the author of one of my favorite books about Detroit, How to Live in Detroit Without Being a Jackass. The second edition is out now. Please welcome back to the show, Aaron Foley. Aaron, how are you?
Good. And, like the couple of times I've done the show, there still hasn't been another me. So, yeah, you're right.
Right.
All right.
You're one in a million for so many reasons.
You have like a Google alert running at all times just in case there's another storyteller that pops up?
There are, like some corporate places have them, but no city has one. So,
right.
Yeah. But it's kind of like narcissistic to have one anyway. Like I don't want to be that person.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're probably making sure, it's like a Jimmy Hoffa if another one shows up.
Maybe I Google it once a month, but like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Boise had one for like a day and then just disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. Well, look, let's talk about some of the things that you're writing about over there at theneighborhoods.org. I know that you guys have been covering the Jefferson Chalmers neighborhood a lot lately. What's happening?
Yeah, so last weekend, the planning department initiated some new plans in that neighborhood. And for those who don't know, Jefferson Chalmers is a neighborhood on the east side of Detroit that kind of straddles. It's east of Belle Isle, east of West Village and Indian Village, but before you get to Grosse Pointe. So there's a couple of blocks over there that is near the Chrysler plant, and there's a couple of landmarks over there. It's a very historic neighborhood. A lot of people are moving there and starting to restore houses there. But it took a big hit during the recession and whatnot. But it's a national historic district. There's things like the Vanity Ballroom and some other historic architecture there that really make it stand out. There's a new restaurant that opened there, Norma G's. And so last weekend, the planning department, after a full year of taking feedback from neighbors and whatnot that live in the community, they recommended all these plans, and they're going to seek developers to put in a new grocery store, to put in some affordable housing, to rehab a bunch of houses over there, and to generally improve the quality of life over there. So improving the streetscape over there. There's an abandoned elementary school that's going to be repurposed as a community space and an apartment complex. And the whole goal is to keep the rents over there affordable for people that are interested in moving there, but also preserving, making sure that the neighbors and residents that already live there can continue calling this place home, because a lot of people have lived there for many years. They like living in Jefferson Chalmers. It's next to the river, so there's a lot of riverside parks that are going to be rehabbed and renovated along the way. And, they deserve to have that neighborhood restored to its full potential. So it's exciting times in Jefferson Chalmers.
Can I ask about grocery stores? Because that was one of the first things I knew about Detroit years before I moved here. I think must have been the height of the financial crisis. I remember reading that there was no grocery store in downtown Detroit. And I remember thinking to myself, how is that possible? And then when I first moved to Detroit, I would see billboards all over town that said, make sure you buy vegetables and you eat. And I didn't I didn't understand that until somebody explained to me, no, there's places where there aren't grocery stores. Right. How important is that to a community?
I mean, it's very important. You know, you want, we years ago, like back in the 50s and 60s and even up through the 70s, every neighborhood had multiple grocery stores. You could walk to the grocery store. You could go into even a convenience store had like produce and whatnot. But then that culture started to deteriorate. You know, we lost Farmer Jack. We lost a bunch of the Spartan stores. We lost a lot of grocery stores in the neighborhoods. And now, if you look at Jefferson Chalmers, for example, people either go into Grosse Pointe to buy groceries, or they go to the Meyer out on 8 Mile, or they'll go to one of the grocery stores where you actually have to drive to, and people are saying they want something that they can walk to, or something they don't have to drive very far to or leave the city for. So, I mean, it's one of those things that people are asking for now that the city is starting to turn a corner. They're just like, okay, you gave us bike lanes, and you gave us recycling, but like, how do we attract, you know, these types of retail options? And so how that's done is, you know, the city can't open a grocery store, right? But what the city can do is, you know, offer land for sale, or offer a retail corner for sale or something like that, and put out, try and get the developers to purchase these things so that they can be a new grocery store, or a developer will take that on, you know, like the city goes into contracts with developers and whatnot to bring these things to life. But that's what's happening now. I mean, people want quality food where they don't have to go to a complete other city, or have to like drive a far distance. They want it right there in their neighborhood.
I think that's important too, for not only attracting new residents, but rewarding the residents that have stayed there for so long and loved their neighborhood and taking care of it. You know, to your point, you want it to remain affordable for the people that were in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, when people are looking at these things, you know, this is one, you know, credit to the planning department is that, like I said, they spent a whole year talking to residents about exactly what they want. Sometimes in other cities, you know, it's kind of a free-for-all. Like, you know, you might see a neighborhood that is in need of redevelopment or need of rehabilitation, and it jumps straight into, like, the more expensive stuff. Like, you see, like, Urban Outfitters and the new, like,
right.
Mall with all these expensive stores, and, like, gentrification happens and things like that. Here, you know, in Detroit, we're trying to, like, avoid doing that. You know, we're trying to really take into account what people are asking for, what people want, and trying to, you know, build relationships with developers who are in tune with that, so that, again, you know, it makes more sense for any city, and not just Detroit, but it makes more sense to, like you said, reward the people that have stayed there, rather than push them out and say, you know, thanks for coming, now you're going to be gone. You know, you know, that's not where we should be.
Let me ask about something else, because it is, of course, a Black History Month, and you and I were talking before you called in tonight, and you were telling me that we have something to celebrate here in the city of Detroit, which is that we have a Department for Civil Rights, Inclusion, and Opportunity. Tell me a little bit about what that is and what they do.
Yeah, so we call it CRIO, because that's the initials, but CRIO, Civil Rights, Inclusion, and Opportunity. It is the oldest municipal department dedicated to civil rights. So late last year, I want to say December, the department celebrated its 75th anniversary. So 75 years from 2018 would be 1943. So that means Detroit had this department dedicated to civil rights far before, you know, the modern civil rights movement. You know, before Martin Luther King, and, well, you know, during Martin Luther King, but, like, you know, before, like, he really took off, before Malcolm X and whatnot. The department formed as a response to the 1943 riots. So the 1943 race riots caused a lot of discord and tension between different, racial groups in Detroit. So the city created this department to address that. It has since evolved into, the department that addresses not only racial concerns, but things like sexual harassment and things of that nature internally. But externally, that department is the one that makes sure that that when a large project comes to town, like the new bridge, for example, that's being built in Southwest Detroit, they are the department that enforces that makes sure that 51% of the people hired for these large projects are Detroit residents. So they work closely with the developers, the workforce development team, all of these different entities to make sure that Detroiters are being represented in these projects. So it's really like an unsung department. They're really known internally, but Charity Dean, who heads that department, I actually went to middle school with her because that's how small Detroit is.
Right.
She's really taking it to try and give more exposure to that department and remind people that this department is here. They're working on behalf of all Detroiters, and they may not be as known as the planning department or the police department or anything like that, but they actually play a big role in day-to-day operations for the city.
Nice. Speaking of Detroit being a small town, I think we have somebody who works for you who's going to be on the podcast a little bit later this week. We have one of your photographers over there, Cyrus Teta, is going to talk to us about the exhibit that he has over at the Detroit Public Library.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Cyrus, and I have to give props not just to Cyrus, but to Amber Lewis, who is our social media manager, and Jamila Jackson, who's also on my team, who sort of kind of coordinated the event programming for this whole thing. But Cyrus spent a good chunk of last year doing something called Neighborhood Natives. So he and the team found notable people from Detroit. We had Mary Wilson from the Supremes, and we had Tommy Hearns, the boxer, and then we had some up-and-coming people, like some up-and-coming rappers and things like that, and comedians. And we took them back to their old neighborhoods, or took them back to the house that they grew up in, and we did portrait shots of these individuals and asked them, what it means to be a Detroiter, what it means, what did this neighborhood mean to you? So we exhibited his photographs at the Detroit Public Library main branch, and it runs through the end of next month. And our next step for that is we did a panel discussion that Cyrus was a part of, but our next step is hopefully getting those photographs to be exhibited at the rest of the libraries around town so that everybody can go in and see them. And it's been pretty well received so far. I'm really proud of that. They're
really spectacular. I think that'd be awesome if they can go on a library tour. What a great idea.
Nice.
I also love what you guys did over there with the Detroit love stories for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we're trying to make that a tradition. So we did it last year and we did it again this year. And similar concept where we found couples in Detroit that were either engaged or married or have been dating for quite some time. And we took them back to the place where they first met, or we took them to the place where they had their first date. And my favorite one was a couple that when they had their first date, part of it was on the People Mover. And then when they got married a few years later, they got married on the People Mover, and they timed the stops to how the route was when they first dated. So that I love that. It kind of shows the other side of Detroit, I think, where you can find love and find happiness, right here. So.
Yeah, it's really cool. Very personal.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Aaron Foley, thank you so much for checking in. You're the Chief Storyteller for the City of Detroit. And also, people, seriously, go get the book if you haven't. I would imagine that it's useful even for people who've been living here for a while.
Yes, yes, I think so.
I got it when I just moved here, but it's called How to Live in Detroit Without Being a Jackass. And the second edition is out now because a lot of things changed since you wrote the first.
Updated.
So, well, thanks, Aaron.
Yep, thanks, guys.
This is the Debrief.
Want more?
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Go to the debriefdetroit.com.
Let's talk about some of the things that are happening on stages around town. Starting with this, Friday, the 22nd, the My Favorite Murder podcast. Are you familiar with this podcast?
Only because you told me about it.
Oh, yeah. This is coming to the Fox Theater. They're going to be recording a show live. They're playing bigger venues than we are when we record our podcast live.
Yeah.
But they're very good at what they do. It's Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark. And basically what happens is they drink wine and they talk about their favorite murders. It's really
wow. So they have a lot. I mean, how many episodes have they done?
Oh, they've been around for a while. I mean,
they've covered a lot of murders.
Yeah, they've covered, which does beg the question, guys. What's your favorite murder?
It's honestly something I've never thought about.
Really?
Well, murder in general is not my favorite thing. So I
mean, being a local Detroit area native. I mean, Jimmy Hoffa, and every time I drove by Fox and Hounds on Telegraph, I would think of that.
How do you know it was a murder?
Even now that it's not there.
But that,
when I drive by that intersection, it always pops.
Okay,
in my mind.
That dude's still alive.
You think so?
Yeah, it's him, Tupac, and Biggie hanging out on an island somewhere.
He's in the foundation of a building somewhere. That's what I think.
Yeah, I would
That's a
not
good
be
murder.
surprised.
Wasn't there the theory that he was in the giant stadium, the football stadium, that he was in the?
Oh yeah.
He was
I guess
concrete?
if you look at it that way, yeah. I don't know.
I wonder if they'll do a Detroit murder when they're here, if that's what they'll talk about on stage.
Yeah, I mean there's certainly some to pick from.
Yeah, what are the others? The Harry Houdini? I mean, it's kind of a murder, right?
Kind of, because the punch did cause his death. Yeah.
Yeah. What other big murders are there from Detroit?
Well, I'm sure just all the Purple Gang stuff,
Plenty to choose from.
Mob, yeah.
So, also Friday night, the 22nd, you've got the Pretty Things Peep Show. This is a vaudeville variety review. It's their 10-year anniversary, and so they're coming to Ant Hall in Hamtramck. So here's some of the things that have been...
Okay.
I totally want to go see this.
It sounds fun already.
Sword swallowing. You ever seen a sword swallower?
I have,
Not in
actually.
person.
Yeah, they do it, at Greenfield Village when they do the Halloween nights. They have a vaudeville review kind of stage. And they have, guys on stilts and swallowing the fire swords and stuff.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I've
know.
seen people do it, and you're watching it, and you're like, because when you watch it up close, they're really doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's no joke. So sword swallowing, I love this stuff. The quick change magic. Have you ever seen this, Pete?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so this is basically you throw a curtain up around a person for like a second, right? It's maybe just like a hula hoop with a piece of cloth. You go, and their outfit has changed. Their complete outfit has changed.
When I saw Lady Gaga at Joe Louis Arena, she did a couple of those.
Wow.
I have no idea how they do that.
I don't know.
I mean, seriously, it's not.
How is it possible?
I have no idea. So I would love to see that. They're also going to have puppets, handcuff and straitjacket escape, a sword ladder, the execution blade box, singing comedy, a talking dog.
Okay.
And a lot more. So that's Friday night at Ant Hall in Hamtramck. Saturday, this looked like a cool show going on. There is a percussion conversation. It is an improvisational performance that's happening at the Carr Center.
Oh, cool.
There are 3 people involved. You may have heard of some of them. Terry Lynn Covington, who is a jazz drummer. She's won 3 Grammys. She's toured with Herbie Hancock. She's actually now a professor at Berklee College of Music, which that's a big deal in the music world there, right? Over there in Boston. She is also the artistic director of the Berkeley Beantown Jazz Festival that happens every year. So she's going to be there performing, right? Mm-hmm. And while she's performing, Dee Dee Bridgewater is going to be scatting.
Oh, that's fun.
Right. This is a jazz singer. She's from Flint. She's won 3 Grammys as well as a Tony. And she was the host of NPR's radio show Jazz Set with Dee Dee Bridgewater for 23 years. So you've got drums, you've got scatting, and then you've got Savion Glover.
Wow.
Oh, I love him.
This guy is a dancer.
Dance, yeah.
He was a student of Gregory Hines. Gregory Hines, the amazing tap dancer, once said, Savion is possibly the best tap dancer that ever lived.
Wow. He's pretty darn good.
I mean, that's a cool show.
Yeah.
Right
that
there.
is very cool.
That sounds fun.
I think I might have to check that out myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also Saturday night, you've got skate night at the Lexus Velodrome. I kind of want to do this because I have not been to the Velodrome yet. I keep passing it on the highway.
I need to get in there as well.
And I'm like, you've seen this place, Pete, where on the highway, the big inflatable gray.
I have, yeah.
Have you been inside it
No,
yet?
I haven't. So that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
I see that all the time.
Bicycles around in there.
Oh, okay.
They have races.
We had the guy who organized the whole thing put it up. We had him on the podcast a while back.
So interesting.
That's interesting. I wonder what that was used for.
They
You're
it's
talking about the one right off 75 there?
They just pumped it up,
Wow.
And they give lessons to kids that live in the neighborhood for like $1. I mean, it's,
Well, so if you've been looking at that and you've been thinking every time you passed it on the highway, I got to find an excuse to go there. Saturday night is your excuse. There's going to be a 70s themed skate party there.
Sweet.
And it's hosted by the Detroit Derby Girls.
Nice.
And I'm telling you, these Derby Girls are tough. Like, I've actually been to a bout that's happened at the Masonic Temple, and they are no joke.
Elbows flying, blood spilled.
I watched that and I was like, I can't do that. No way. Yeah. So, but you can go and you can skate with them. They'll have beer, they'll have cocktails, they'll have music. It is bring your own skates.
Okay. So they'll have beer for you, but you got to bring your own skates.
Yes, and it's 21 plus. So
roller skates and beer with me, that's a bad combination.
I maybe if I was younger, but I don't want to break an ankle.
Oh, I definitely. I think I might head out there. Also, just want to mention a couple of things that are closing in theaters. These are plays that it's your last chance to go see. You've got Angels in America, Part 1, that's happening for the last time at the Hillberry Theater. You've got Reap the Grove that the Matrix Theater Company is putting on, and The Play That Goes Wrong. Heard a lot of things about this, that it's a very, very funny show. It's your last chance to catch it at the Fisher Theater.
The Debrief.
All right, Becky, any news stories catch your attention this week?
Yeah, I love this one because, we can get kind of jaded about, gosh, everything's going on in the world. There's so many not nice people and, negativity and conflict. So kids often can remind us about the sweetness that's out there. So this happened in Royal Oak at Keller Elementary School. An 8-year-old girl named Quinn, she has a classmate named Avery who's visually impaired, and Quinn didn't want her to feel left out of all the Valentine's Day goings on when, you exchange the paper Valentines. And she knew Avery wouldn't be able to see the traditional ones, so she Googled the Braille alphabet and figured out how to write Happy Valentine's Day to Avery in Braille using little rhinestone gems that she glued on a piece of paper and made that. And her dad said, Quinn did this all on her own and nothing to do with it. She figured it all out. And Avery was so, tickled. And her mom said that this just made Avery's day. And all the kids have been so kind to her. I think and her visual impairment, plus she has some other health issues and stuff. And she's just said these kids at Keller have embraced her and made her feel like a part of things. And she has a lot of friends. So, leave it to kids. They know what's up.
Well, it's good parenting, too.
Yeah. That's true.
It's kids got parents that are instilling the right
empathy.
Right values.
Yeah.
Well, that puts my Valentine's Day gift to shame. I'm feeling embarrassed now.
Yeah.
So that's a cool story.
Right. Yeah.
So, aww.
Good job, Quinn.
This is the
Detroit.
This is the Debrief.
All right, Pete. That's another show. You survived.
Yeah.
Right?
Thrived, I'd say.
Yeah. Thanks.
And we can't let you leave without telling some of your jokes.
Oh my.
Is this a part of the set when you're up on stage?
How many sound men does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many sound men does it take to screw in a light bulb?
2, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2. Sorry, guys. They made me do it.
Yeah.
Look, we talk about a lot of things on this show. If you would like to get links to the stuff that we talk about, all you have to do is go to our website. It is thedebriefdetroit.com. While you're there, sign up for the email list, and we will email you a list of everything that we talk about on this show.
If you want a quick and dirty way, just text the word Detroit from your mobile phone to 444-999.
All right, Pete, in retribution for that awful, awful joke.
Oh, boy.
We're going to make you do
now.
some real work.
Oh,
you got to play a little game.
All right. Oh, ominous music.
Here's how this works. We're going to ask you for a series of rapid-fire recommendations. Just tell us the first thing that comes into your head.
Okay.
You mentioned that you were a Beatles fan. Are you a Motown fan as well?
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite Motown song?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Ooh.
That song had a huge impact on me. It's just there's so much ear candy there. It's such a great song. And like Paul Warren, who still plays, he's toured with Rod Stewart and stuff. He's one of the guitar players on that. I mean, the guitar parts are phenomenal. I mean, it's just if you just sit back sometime and listen to everything that's going on, it's like perfect. It's like a perfect piece of art.
Can I ask a question? Did you happen to see the Grammys this year?
I did not, no.
So J-Lo did that as part of her Grammys
she
tribute.
took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And Andalisi was saying that it was not the right arrangement to do. And Andalisi said if you want to see a great cover of that, go check out Was Not Was. And their cover of that song.
That's right. I have heard that. Yeah.
But
yeah, that song is, to me, is just it's perfection. Every part of every track, every vocal part, every instrument, it's like
the whole package.
Yeah, it just blows my mind every time I hear it.
Okay, so you've been married a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to take your wife out, where do you go for a romantic date?
Well, we love House Bayou in Ferndale.
Uh-huh.
I know it's not like the new trendy place anymore, but that's like our favorite place. We've been going there for a long time, and we love to just sit at the bar and order some gumbo or some jambalaya and some cornbread and collard greens and have a couple of beers. And that's kind of like our place, you know.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
What's the thing about Detroit that you would brag to your out-of-town friends about?
That we're real. Mm-hmm. That the people here are real. That we're like, what you see is what you get. And I think we've had kind of a inferiority complex for a long time. I know my dad would be really, really happy with what's going on right now. My dad died in 1996, but he was a staunch defender of Detroit, and he would do business downtown even when it was a hassle and when it wasn't hip, you know. And if he knew, and you know, hopefully he's looking down on us, and if he knew what's happening now, I think he would be really, really happy.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
Tell me this. What toppings do you put on your conies? Because I need a new recipe.
Onions, chili, and mustard.
All right, that's it. That's
like if anybody says anything else,
they're doing it wrong.
What?
Yeah. I was curious when I did the recipe. They said don't put chili sauce in if you're doing the Detroit version of it. They said if you're doing it from anywhere else, put chili sauce in, but not in the Detroit. And then there, I think, was I forget whether it was a Cleveland or a Cincinnati version as well. So I didn't know. All right, so I did it right then.
Yeah. So Pete, if you could create your own line of Detroit T-shirts, what would your slogan be on the shirt?
Wow. A lot of the good ones have already been taken. What you see is what you get.
Oh, I like that.
Nice. Name a Detroit band or musician that people don't know but should.
The Gasoline Gypsies.
Who are they?
They're this really kick-ass local rock and roll band.
Yes.
And they're like, I saw these guys at that event the other night. And I told them, and I wasn't blowing smoke up there behind either, they are really, really good. They're just a really good rock and roll band. And I told them they've got everything going for them. They've got really good songs. They're all really good players, and they have really good vocals. They're like the whole package.
Yeah.
And they write their own material. So if they're listening, you guys are awesome. They're really good. Check them out.
You know, I think Josh Malerman and Chad Stocker mentioned them as well.
Yeah, we'll have to.
They're really, really good. They are a really good band.
All right. Pete, thank you so much. This was fantastic to have you on the show. Tell everybody once again, if they want to catch you performing with Main Street Soul, where can they do that?
Main Street Soul will be at Freddy's Bar and Grill in Clinton Township on Saturday, May 9th. Saturday night, May 9th. Great venue. Great band. Check us out.
March 9th, right?
March 9th. Did I say May? I'm sorry. Yes, March 9th.
I would like to think it'd be May.
No.
Then the weather would be nice. But yeah. Well, I just have to say it's such an honor to have another musician in the studio and just a working musician. There's so much talent, Seth, in Detroit, homegrown, just doing their thing. So we appreciate you.
Well, perfect. Pete Peltier, thank you so much for stopping by. And don't forget, we've got Cyrus Teta, the photographer for the city of Detroit, with that great exhibit that's over at the Detroit Public Library. That episode will drop on Friday. Until then, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
Take care.
The D-Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.